friends. You thought that Game 7 would be the exhale, that after the draft, the NBA might take a little breath. Oh, no, no. This is the league that never sleeps. Welcome to the NBA Today Free Agency Special, your 2-hour front row seat to the frenzy. The deal floodgates, they opened about an hour ago, and if your phone's been vibrating nonstop, it's probably this guy. Notifications from our senior insider, Shams Charania, because he's been busy. So far, there have been over $1 billion in deals and contracts that have been given out this offseason, with more to come. But what are the impact of all of those deals? That sounds like a job for Mr. Money Moves, Mr. Bobby Marks. We'll be sorting through everything from the sneaky to the seismic. And speaking of seismic, have you guys heard anything about a guy named LeBron James? Well, let's just say a certain statement has captured the entire basketball world's attention. Checking the map, doing the math. Our quartet of California-based reporters texting their sources to bring us up-to-the-minute insight. We're going to get to all of that with our senior writer, Brian Windhorst, our analyst, Tim Legler, Udonis Haslam. I'm Malika Andrews. Let's sit back, get comfortable, and take it in. NBA free agency 2025 has begun. Brian, if you were to describe it in one word so far, what would that be?
Expensive.
Expensive, and we're only about an hour in, so I have a feeling it's going to get a little bit pricier from here. Let's start with the busiest person in the league, our senior insider, Shams Charania. Shams, as I have been walking through the studio, my phone has been vibrating with your reporting, with your updates here. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I have some news for you guys. Free agent guard D'Angelo Russell has agreed to a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Sources tell ESPN. Co-heads of CA basketball, Aaron Mintz, Austin Brown, reached an agreement, as well as the Mavericks officials here tonight. So this gives Dallas a stopgap at point guard. He's going to have a significant role, especially when Kyrie Irving will miss at least half of the upcoming NBA season. So D'Angelo Russell going to the Mavericks, 2 years, $13 million.
D'Angelo Russell to the Dallas Mavericks. Legs, what do you think of this?
Well, first of all, I think that's a bargain of $6.5 million a year. Really, D'Angelo Russell still can score. And I think for me, he said stopgap. That's a good word. I just look at it as a solution to the Kyrie Irving problem. We don't know when we're going to see Kyrie Irving again, but they still have Anthony Davis. They brought in Cooper Flagg. This is a team that wants to get out of the gate. They don't want to be buried behind a bunch of teams in the West. To me, D'Angelo Russell is about as good as you're going to get on the market right now, and that's obviously a great number.
I mean, with Kyrie being out, you get a guy who averaged 18 points a game 2 years ago, about 17 points a game the year before, and then last year had a down year. So this is a guy who can definitely score, struggles to defend, but you have those wing defenders. You have those Najee Marshalls. You have those Cooper Flaggs, those Caleb Martins. You have AD, so you have guys that can cover that. I love this move for them.
There's not a ton of free agent dollars on the market now. There's two teams that have significant space. That's Brooklyn and Detroit. So some of these free agents are going to have to take maybe a little bit of a pay cut. Certainly this is the case for D'Angelo Russell. So if you're going to take a pay cut, pick a spot where you have a really good fit, and that's the case here. He's going to walk into a starting job, have a big role for a team that figures on being a Western Conference contender if Kyrie Irving can get healthy later in the season.
The Dallas Mavericks have had a really interesting sort of offseason even so far, adding Cooper Flagg as well.
Yeah, if you look at Dallas, they are probably one of the most upwardly mobile teams in the whole league because they get Cooper Flagg, who we all think is going to be an impact player. They've got Anthony Davis coming back healthy this fall, and they've got a really good set of role players that they can either use or use in additional trades coming forward in the offseason.
I was hoping we were going to be going back to Shams now, but the way that this free agency goes, he's already off to the races. He's working on something right now. Usually, Brian, we don't start our free agency shows with a player opting into a player option. But this isn't just any player. It is LeBron James. He exercised his $52.6 million option. But this is what caught everyone's attention. It's what his agent, Rich Paul, told our Shams Charania. Quote, LeBron wants to compete for a championship. Brian, you said this well on the Hoop Collective podcast. Okay, fine. Yes, of course he does. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. Okay, that makes sense. He understands that, but, and that is a big but, he values a realistic chance at winning it all. We are very appreciative of the partnership that we've had for 8 years with Jeannie and Rob and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. That but holds a lot of weight there, Brian.
Yeah, so he opted into his contract, so he's committed to returning to the Lakers. He has a no-trade clause, which he can not only control where he would go, but who he would get traded for, which makes any sort of LeBron trade unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. So really what Rich is saying here is LeBron would like to see the Lakers get off to a very good start in free agency. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's been a couple of transactions out of the gate, and the Lakers have lost a player. and replaced him with a player.
About Dorian Finney-Smith.
That's right. Dorian Finney-Smith is, according to Shams, is going to leave the Lakers. He was a really big acquisition last winter. He's going to sign with Houston on a 4-year deal, leaving the Lakers. And they have, according to Shams, replaced him with Jake LaRavia, a younger player, less accomplished, another 6'8" wing who will fill in the role, but again, less accomplished. Maybe it'll end up being a great signing, but if you're LeBron, who's talking about whether the Lakers are going championship moves, this isn't a move that's going to make you feel super great just yet. It's just the beginning. We're an hour in.
I personally don't think he's going anywhere. I never really thought that he was. The interesting thing about this was, typically in this situation, a guy would say, I'm opting in because this situation gives me the best chance to win a championship. He opted in, and then immediately the language was like, but are they going to do enough to make sure I have a chance to compete for a championship? I think LeBron James made a decision a long time ago to go to L.A. It had more to do than just basketball. He's settled there. That's where he wants to be. I think that's where he's going to finish his career. And look, by the way, you still do have Luka Doncic next to you, and I know they only had half a year ago. It didn't work out the way they wanted. You've got one of the best players in the NBA next to you now with a full season to hopefully get some things done in L.A.
He's not going anywhere. Like, I will tell you this straight up, first of all. I know LeBron James. This is LeBron James flexing his muscle. This is LeBron James using what he has as a superstar to hold the organization accountable. As a player, we are held accountable. When we don't win, there is a conversation with us about winning. As a player, when you get to the level that LeBron James has gotten to, you won as many championships, you have the right to have a conversation with the upstairs about what it takes to win. I think there needs to be a collaboration on where we're going, what we need to win, but also on the other side, we have a young superstar who also is the future of this organization. There's two sides to this, but LeBron is not wrong. He only has a few more years, and in those few more years, he needs to be put in a situation to win.
How many times before, Brian? 8 times, 9 times has LeBron been in a situation where he has the opportunity to opt into a contract? And basically every other time, he's opted out, he's restructured. There's been something that has happened that's more than just opt into a deal. That's also curious.
This is where it is different. He has had player options in his last 8 contracts, dating back to 2006 when he signed his first extension. He has never used them. He has always opted out of the contract. 3 times he switched teams, and then the other times he signed new contracts. In fact, that's happened twice with the Lakers. In this case, he opted into his contract. So for the first time in 23 seasons, Malika, LeBron is on an expiring contract. For the first time in 23 seasons, he will start a season where he is not the franchise player.
And of course, that also brings up questions about how long LeBron James wants to continue to play, because he is going to turn 41 in December. Elsewhere in the Western Conference, news is moving fast, my friend. We have breaking news out of Denver. Let's welcome back in Shams. Shams, what's going on in the Mile High City?
Malika, we have a major trade for Nikola Jokic's Denver Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr. is being sent to the Brooklyn Nets along with an unprotected 2032 first-round pick for Cam Johnson.
Wow.
So Nikola Jokic at the wing will now have Cam Johnson, who got a ton of interest this past season. The Nets had multiple offers for first-round pick for Cam Johnson. They trade him to the Nuggets now, and Michael Porter Jr. now goes back to Brooklyn with an unprotected first-round pick. This is a major jolt, major change to the Nuggets. We've seen this team the last few years ride it out with the same group. They are making a pretty massive change at the wings.
A massive change here for the Denver Nuggets. Shams, thank you so very much for that insight. I think about, Brian, Nikola Jokic at the end of the season, basically as loudly as we've ever heard Nikola say, we're not a championship team. And I don't think he meant it as a slight towards anyone in particular, but that's about as pointed as the MVP has gotten in previous years.
Yeah, and this is a big move for Denver. This is the biggest transaction they've made in years. Cam Johnson was pretty much the most coveted wing on the trade market. Teams have been trying to get Cam out of Brooklyn for a year now. He is a high character guy, plays both ends of the court, shoots the 3 well. And if I'm not mistaken, and Bobby Marks can back me up, I think he makes, a salary that potentially would give them some wiggle room, which is one of the reasons why I think they paid a first-round pick here in addition to Michael Porter Jr.
And I think the biggest part of this is that he can play both sides of the floor. Michael Porter Jr. is a guy who can fill it up. We understood that in the finals when we played against him. This is a guy who we need to pay attention to. But on the defensive end, in my opinion, the wing defender is one of the most important defensive positions in the league. You have to be able to have those Swiss Army knife guys that can switch, guard 1 through 4, sometimes 5, and go on the other end and make shots. Michael Porter could make shots, but he cannot do what Cam can do on the defensive end. I love this move. They need that defensive on the perimeter.
This, to me, is a huge move for
Yeah.
Denver. To me, this is a major upgrade because Michael Porter Jr., look, I know he had the shoulder injury down the stretch of the season. That really hurt his performance. He just could not be consistent offensively. But on the defensive end of the floor, he was a guy that got better throughout his career, but was still picked on quite a bit. You have now upgraded defensively. Basically a guy that's almost the same size, much more consistent, catch-and-shoot shooter. He can also put it down a little bit, create offense. But I think more than anything else, it's the consistency factor. Denver felt a little bit stale to me, and this was a team that took the champions to 7 games. So they know they're still in the mix in the West, but they had to do something significant to change up their core. They have upgraded it. I think this is a great move for Denver.
They've had changes up and down, really, including in their front office, their head coach, and now we're seeing changes to their roster as well, Brian.
Yes, this is a big move from their front office. And again, I will rely on Bobby, but I think this reduces their payroll by about $13 million. Brooklyn was able to do this. They're using some of their salary cap space, assuming this is a straight-up trade. And again, it might open Denver's ability to acquire another player. So this is a move that not only that they believe probably upgrades and gets a better two-way starting 5, but also could add another piece.
There's a real arms race in a crowded Western Conference right now, and to me, this move says that Denver knows they needed to make a change, and they did that because, to your point, Legs, their championship window, even though Oklahoma City has the potential to be a dynasty, they very much feel as long as they have Nikola Jokic, it is open. Speaking of open windows, we're 10 minutes in, an hour and 10 into our free agency special, and we've yet to get to Giannis. What can Milwaukee do to upgrade their roster around the Greek Freak? And will that be enough for him to stay? Plus, the Golden State Warriors, they're hitting the phones. They're working to upgrade their roster around Steph Curry. We're going to take you inside their free agency plans next as NBA Today rolls on. Or a contender, as you see here, these remaining notable free agents here, as I mentioned. So I want to welcome in a pair of our senior writers, Ramona Shelburne and Mark Spears. I got a lot of questions as we enter this free agency, particularly out of the Western Conference. Ramona, what's your biggest?
You know, I'm going to start with the Phoenix Suns, right?
Okay.
They obviously traded Kevin Durant, and they're trying to redo things. But I think Chris Paul is looking to get back closer to home. A reunion with Chris Paul could be in order for the Phoenix Suns. What have we all talked about with the Suns recently? They lack leadership. They haven't had that kind of leadership since Chris Paul left, since they traded him in that spot. So I think the way to get him is if Tyus Jones leaves in free agency. There's also the discussion about whether they buy out Bradley Beal or they trade Bradley Beal, but people all over the league are waiting to see when and if that happens and what it looks like. And so I think the Phoenix Suns still have a couple of big questions.
The Phoenix Suns certainly do. I know the biggest one was whether or not Kevin Durant was going to be on the roster and how they could upgrade. They were able to answer that one, but certainly still some remaining questions. Mr. Spears, do you got any questions for me, maybe closer to where I'm from?
Yeah, J.K., Jonathan Kuminga, like what's going to happen with him? Ramona and I have been talking about it. There seems to be optimism in the Warriors camp that he will re-sign. He will be a restricted free agent. This market's not great for him. As one NBA GM told me, is like, what has he proven to be worth what his agent wants, which is $25+ million? Who has that money for him? Why does he deserve that? But then on the flip side, if he returns to the Warriors, like, what's his role?
And can he reach his full potential there?
Yeah, and so if I'm Jonathan, I'm in a really weird spot right now. The money's not here this summer. Maybe it's next summer. But either way, there's a lot of question marks.
Well, look, I think the Warriors want him back. The question is, does he want to be back?
Yeah.
I know there are teams that like Jonathan Kuminga. They just don't have cap space. So it has to be a sign and trade. And from what I understand, the Warriors are not going to give him up not assets that they don't like in return. They want to keep him unless they get something great back for him. So he can go and negotiate a deal with another team. Right. Chicago likes him. Miami likes him. You know, let's
Sacramento.
Sacramento. Let's see if the Phoenix Suns. They liked him a lot. They had him in the original construction for Kevin Durant back in February.
Sure.
But
I like nice cars.
But do they have players that the Warriors would want to take back in a sign and trade?
Right.
And from my understanding, the Warriors they don't like anything right now that's being discussed.
When you look at the Golden State Warriors, I think about their run against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jonathan Kuminga showed what he can be in those final couple of games without Steph Curry. It's about whether or not he's going to be able to reach that full potential
Is
here.
that a big enough sample size,
we just got some news in from our senior insider, Shams Charania, as we've been talking here. Kevon Looney, as we're talking about the Golden State Warriors, he's agreed to a 2-year, $16 million deal with the New Orleans Pelicans.
Wow.
Yes,
end of an era.
Is reporting. So it's really an end of an era,
End of
as
an
you
era,
mentioned
man.
here.
Sad
the
people in
Golden
the Bay
State
right
Warriors.
now. over that.
He's been such a key piece of this team of many championships as well in the Bay.
As odd as it might sound, he may get his jersey retired one day.
Yeah, he could.
He's kind of the hard hat guy for the Warriors. Done everything they asked him to do. He was a guy in the locker room. You know where he's going to hurt the most? He's been the biggest mentor.
Yeah.
Like people think about Steph and they think about Draymond as a mentor. Nobody's been a bigger mentor for the young guys in that roster than
Well, I
Rudy.
think they're also looking for another center, and they're in the discussions with Al Horford, some other of the centers that are out there. And you know, if he's got an offer like this, he's got to take that money.
Yeah, but for 10 years with the Golden State
That's a
Warriors,
lot.
that was a heck of a run. So
Great
again,
move by
Kevon
Joe
Looney.
Dumars for his young guys.
Yeah,
Kevon Looney on his way to the New Orleans Pelicans. While we're talking about the Golden State Warriors and you're asking the kinds of questions about what money they can afford to pay Jonathan Kuminga while still trying to maybe upgrade at center, that sounds like a job for Mr. Money Moves. Bobby Marks, make it work for us, please, sir.
Well, we're going to look at two things right now. We're going to look at the center market right now. This is a priority for Golden State, certainly the playoff loss against Minnesota. Here's a name to keep an eye on. Former Celtics, Al Horford, okay? That would certainly fill some of the need that Golden State needs at the center position. Everyone was talking about Jonathan Kuminga. We have him projected at a $20 million number right now. The problem with Jonathan Kuminga is there's no salary cap space out there. The trade, the Michael Porter Jr., Cam Johnson trade, has eliminated most of the Nets cap space to go out and do an offer sheet on Jonathan Kuminga. So he's basically in a waiting game. He can take a $7.9 million qualifying offer or a team-friendly deal. And I think that's going to be the key for the Warriors offseason. Certainly a signing trade potentially also. Brian had mentioned, I heard him over there when he was asking about Cam Johnson, that Cam Johnson, Michael Porter Jr. trade. That unlocks the non-tax mid-level exception, $14.1 million for the Denver Nuggets to go out and use.
All right, $14 million for the Denver Nuggets. But again, Jonathan Kuminga has some limited options here as we say hello to our reporter Om Young Masuk, who spent a lot of time with Golden State last season. Do the Warriors believe, as we're talking about potentially someone like Al Horford, they are a piece away here from being able to maximize and go for one more championship with Steph Curry on?
With Kevon Looney gone now, all signs look like it points to Al Horford. League sources have been saying that it seems like the Warriors and Horford seem like the perfect fit and locked in. And when I would have discussions with Steve Kerr along the season, he would talk about how the Warriors can play two different ways now. They play their motion offense with Steph Curry, but with the addition of Jimmy Butler, they can go ISO Jimmy. And still, Al Horford would fit that perfectly because, one, they've already said they don't want to play Draymond Green at center the entire season. They just can't afford to do that. They could do it in spurts, like in the playoff runs and how they made that run at the end of the season, but they need Al Horford. He can come in, he can stretch the floor to stretch five, he can pass in that motion offense, he can set screens for them, and defensively, he still has something left in the tank, so he would be a good fit. After that, that's where it gets interesting, Malika, because I think they have to wait on Jonathan Kuminga to see if there's a sign-and trade out there, perhaps with a Miami or with a Chicago, as Ramona mentioned. In those cases, though, what really is going to come in those packages? Is it Duncan Robinson? Is it Jaime Jaquez? It's going to have to be more than that. And on the Chicago end, would it be Nikola Vucevic, a guy that they were linked to last year before the trade deadline? But they would need more than Vucevic as well. That's why if they bring back Kuminga, then Steve Kerr has said, we're going to spend the early portion of the season trying to see if he can fit in with Steph, with Jimmy and Draymond, something that I think Golden State already knows is not really a great fit. And then after that, maybe they can trade him.
Or they can just chill and see what happens with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because that is a big or. If I think the Warriors like their team. Are they going to beat the Thunder with this roster? Probably not. But I think they like their team. They can maybe make a move on the periphery. They have access to a lot of their future draft picks. It may be worth it for them to sit there and wait for the possibility of a big transaction. They sat there and they were patient last year. They ended up with Jimmy Butler. It's possible that they could get Kuminga into a contract that they could still intend to trade down the line, whether it's for a player like Giannis or somebody else.
And that would be the best thing that could happen to Jonathan Kuminga. I just think he's at a point. If he's still auditioning for the Golden State Warriors about fit and minutes and how, I'm sorry, that something's there that he needs a new set of eyes on him. And I think Jonathan Kuminga is a guy that gives them this athletic ability they desperately need. They don't have a lot of athletes on this roster. But it's obvious with what happened to him at the end of the year, 4 DNPs in the Houston series. Finally, they go to him when Curry gets hurt in the Minnesota series. The guy averages 24 points a game over those last 4 games on 56% from the field against the top-shelf defense. So he let people know, this is kind of what I'm capable of, but I just think he's there, and there's a cynicism around him with the organization that's going to be difficult for him to break through.
I agree with you 1,000%. As a player, when you're in an organization, you want to feel wanted. You want to know that the organization wants you. They want you on the floor. They believe in you. That's a situation that's been kind of tricky for Jonathan Kuminga. But I look on the defensive end of that, and I say I love Al offensively. I know he'll come in. He'll pick up right where he needs to. He's a veteran. He has basketball intelligence. But on the defensive end, is he a rim protector? Is he going to be a guy that's going to get a stop down there, protect the rim, bang with those big guys? I look at that situation as almost similar to having Draymond down there. I love Al offensively, but defensively, I think you need a little more size down there to take that banging and protect the rim.
This has always been the question for the Golden State Warriors. Who is their big man has always been something, in addition to Draymond Green, that we have been sort of asking even over their dynastic championship run. So we're watching Kevon Looney out in Golden State. We're monitoring Jonathan Kuminga. We're monitoring Al Horford. But meanwhile, the Denver Nuggets are busy. Brian, you said they've already used up that money. Well, Bruce Brown, he's back.
So Shams tells us this. Now, over the last few years, we saw the Nuggets lose players because they were top heavy. The deal for Cam Johnson gives them some space. They get a player back that they lost last year. This is a guy who fits perfect on this roster.
Well, and they know him very, very well.